In this panel, what we're going to be exploring is, a combination of different factors to do with both the business of being an actor and also, for me, the most exciting part is directing actors, being an actor, and for me, the most exciting part of acting and working with actors is getting an authentic performance for the camera, for cinema, for film. He died some years ago, but there was a director's trainer in London called Simon Phillips, who was a phenomenal educator. And he used to say the trick for cinema, the trick for cameras, is to know that it's actually happening. You're not acting, you're actually having an experience. So the task of the director is to give the actor an actual emotional experience so that that plays on camera. So for the panel today, we're very fortunate. We've got Darren Darnborough from WeAudition, Richard Cambridge, also from WeAudition. And now, do we have Mel G. Henderson here? I don't think Mel's arrived. And Chandler from Walking Dead. Yeah. So a round of applause, please. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Now, I think everybody's heard of Walking Dead. It's that little show that people have heard about. Where's the other? Oh, you've got the other microphone here. Let me grab that for a second. Would one of you just sum up what is WeAudition and why should people be excited about it?
Oh, I was going to sum up what Walking Dead is because it's awesome. One of my favourite shows.
Clues in the title, isn't it?
Yeah. What is WeAudition? WeAudition at its core is an app and a website that allows an actor to get a self-tape reader on demand any time of day, 24/7, so that they can rehearse their scenes, read with another actor, learn an accent, anything like that, on demand. Its bigger mission is basically connecting actors around the world to do their best work and elevate their careers. So that's, Rich, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's part of a toolkit that actors use to be better actors. It started off as something where actors were just using each other to rehearse for self-tapes, but I think it's grown into a community of people that are booking more roles and changing their lives with better work and better connection, human connection.
Building relationships, which actors always want to and need to do, but don't do enough or do efficiently or selflessly enough. And I think the WeAudition community helps them do that and empowers them to do that in a really nice, organic way where everyone's lifted up from it and their experiences on it.
Thank you. I want to mention, I'm a really big fan, and the execution for WeAudition is just great.
Thank you.
The experience for the user is just phenomenal. So what I'd like to do, I think, is we'll start talking a little bit about the kind of business aspect, right? Like, how do you get those connections? How do you build that reputation as an actor? And then move into for me, the exciting bit about how do you make it real? How do you make the audience cry because you're crying? Like, what is that, right? Or happy because you're happy? So let's start out with the connections thing. I mean, the three of you and myself as well, we've been closely involved in film and television industry for years and years. What are your hot tips on establishing yourself so that you can be found? Let's start with that. How can actors be found? Who wants to go first?
Sure, yeah. Well, first off, do you do audiobooks, Maxim? By the way, you have an amazing voice. Yes. It's like so pleasant, right?
Why, thank you. I'm available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, children's parties. I actually have recorded over 2,000 tutorials. I write the official book on Premiere Pro, if anyone's familiar with that. And so a couple of thousand.
That makes sense, yeah.
So if I put on my radio voice, you might have heard me. So if I say, now let's click on the file menu and open up some clips, put them on the timeline. But actually, I want to do a lot more voiceover. So tell the world I'm available. Bless you.
Yeah. Well, I think like for actors, it really is the hardest thing to stand out. You know, I mean, casting directors, they get so many self-tapes from all people that look really similar. You know, so it's about trying to like do something unique, something different, and trying to stand out. And actually, I just want to say for WeAudition, like, the best thing that can be done for actors to stand out is Well, so at the end of the day, filmmaking across the board, every aspect of it is a collaborative process, right? And it's so easy with self-tapes, you just grab like a friend who is not in film or anything like that to like just help you out with the audition, and like they don't know how to give you notes or feedback or direction, so it ends up just being like what you bring to the table, and sometimes that's okay. Just what you bring to the table is good, and that's enough. But to be able to get feedback from someone else who knows, like, has done, like, is in the business and knows kind of also what you're doing, and is so incredibly helpful. So it's awesome what you guys have built, and I've heard about you guys a lot, so it's very cool to be up here with you guys. Yeah, of course.
Heard about you too.
Nice. All right. But yeah, that really is the conundrum of just how do you stand out, And what actually me and my roommate for the longest time we had been doing was we had, aside from just like doing the first step, which is getting someone else like creatively collaborative, helping you out with this and sitting down with them, getting thoughts and ideas and trying to make this better than you can make it alone. But we had started getting creative with, and this is what got me into filmmaking in the first place, was actually shooting the audition in a way that is more like, I'll give an example. It's easier to describe it. So both of us had an audition for the Dune show, Dune Messiah, and we were like, okay, this is a big one. So what can we do to like try to stand out? And we got this like orange backdrop, and we had already had like a decent camera and like a decent lens. We got like a nice backdrop, and we're like, okay, it's just like kind of like orange and gray and kind of like Dune-ish, right? What more can we do? And so we get this like spotlight, and we like shoot it through because we look at how they light the scenes and how they do everything, and just casting this cool like spotlight on the back of the backdrop, and just doing things like to make it easier for the casting director to see you in the scene, like without it being too distracting, is what I found to be just good ways to just make a tape just stand out more than just your performance, because you have to be good. That's the the other
you
part.
shot an episode of the show.
And we have gone like taken it to a step further too, where we actually like shoot and cut together a scene from the audition. Of course, we always stay on the person, but like throwing in like an insert if they're going to like grab something, or like just putting them in an actual environment where there's a actual depth of field and like a realistic background, things like that, to maybe try to like stand out a bit, but the caveat is that you still have to be good. That's the other part.
I think you actually you absolutely have to be good as well, and that makes you stand out. But what I've learned from doing 10 years of WeAudition, we see thousands of tapes. We don't look through the tapes on purpose, but we see them. We see people's show reels, and there's different stages, and partly it's doing a great tape, but partly it's getting access to those auditions in the first place. And we know a lot of people who are starting out who don't necessarily have a great agent, or they don't necessarily have access to have the opportunity to show their best self. And so I think, to answer your question about how to get out there, it is doing great work, but it's also networking, it's also building your community, it's also building your base of stuff. And I think there's the time, sometimes it takes time to do that, but I want to clarify, we see stuff, we see lots of people, and you can absolutely tell when someone's going to be a star. You know it. And what you need to do is work on yourself, work on your craft, because people who see stuff know it, and it's very special, and not everyone has it, but I can tell who has it. We did a ones to watch program. We brought people here to Cannes previously, and what we did is we took people that we knew, WeAudition invited, people that we'd met, people that were on our platform, and we'd said, they're a future A-list, they're a future star. They might not have done much work, but we saw in their self-tape stuff that they did for a small job, or their short film, or the stuff they made themselves, we could see.
And the way they move in a room.
And the way that they network, the way they speak to people, the way they're kind, the way they talk to us. And there was a few people, it's like, Darren would meet people and he'd say, what do you think of this person? I'm like, yeah,
I'd text him
absolutely.
and say, I would text Richard and be like, I just met a one to watch. Like, and I could tell in minutes, and looking back, we were right, because they're now big stars.
So I think I'm a director mainly, right? So I think from a director's point of view, I just want to reinforce that I actually don't care that much who's been in what. Obviously, you've got to package a project, you need to get some names because you need the metrics for sales. But once you've got through that part of a production, I'll watch one video by any actor, and I get quite hot under the collar. I get a sort of like, it's like an obsessive love affair. You start looking for every photo and every video they've done. And I wanted to add that, I have sort of a set of rules of advice for actors that are starting out in their careers. And one is to just get content out there. And I think one of the best ways to do that, and Ariana Grande demonstrated this actually. She would sit on her bed once a week and record a cover.
Make
a cappella.
stuff. Make stuff.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it, and I don't do it myself, and I should. And Hermione, my wife, tells me, and I should do it more. And Darren tells me.
You're so lazy though. You're not doing anything else the rest of the week. You have all this time, Richard. He's so lazy.
But you should make stuff, and you should make stuff from your heart. You should make stuff that's awesome. You shouldn't make necessarily expensive, massive budget stuff. It doesn't matter. You should make stuff on your iPhone, because then the creativity keeps going. And we see members that put stuff they make up themselves, and it's brilliant. It doesn't necessarily mean it's big budget. You can see the star shine. And I would advise someone, to answer your original question, make some stuff at home, make some stuff with friends, and it could be on a world stage.
And people, directors and casting directors don't really care about the quality of the production. Having a better camera helps you look better. What they care about is the authenticity. And one of my hot tips is to just record 1-minute monologues once a week. Yeah. Work with a director who's a true friend and will tell you when you suck.
Or do a duologue on WeAudition, Maxim.
Or even better, do a duologue on WeAudition, because acting is reacting. But if you just
next
keep
year we'll
getting
pay
content
you and be
out
on here
there,
and make sure you say that.
Yeah, get it on a WeAudition. But once, as a director, once you get interested in somebody, I just want to see every single thing by them.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter to me if it's a duologue, monologue, what platform it is, if it's accessible. Now I can start to build that excitement. You had something to say.
Yeah, well, so doing that process and just making my self tapes look just more interesting made me get into actually shooting short films. Yeah. So picking up like better cameras and lenses and learning how to light a scene. I'm like, oh, I'm just learning how to make a film. So that's what I started doing, is just shooting short films and just actually doing it, because that's
So I have some thoughts on this from all of your discussions. It's kind of wild, but how do you stand out as an actor, right? Well, firstly, this guy stands out as an actor to me from the television. Like, he's amazing, right? Phenomenal.
Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
When I first watched you, and I have chills thinking about it, I literally said to the person I was watching with, I want to be this actor when I grow up. And I'm older than you, obviously, right? But I was like, if I can be half as good as you. And I had some little bit of skin in the game, because I was Lauren Cohen's reader.
What? No way.
Yes, we're very good friends. Yeah, and I was her reader for that audition.
That's crazy.
And I remember, and we didn't quite shoot it cinematic because it was obviously a long time ago, but we did things that were a little unorthodox, right? So I did move the camera. There was a scene when she was scrabbling around the house in her bed, and we filmed it in her bedroom, and she was doing stuff, and it was a bit shaky, and we made it a little bit cinematic, right, for what you could do back then. Yeah. And why I'm saying that and hearing you is I'm amazed that with your body of work that you still put that effort into your self-tapes, and that's what it takes. If I meet an actor out there that's like, oh, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to go off the pub, I'm like, if he's doing that with all of his experience and all of his... When you are as experienced as this guy and got as many hours of television as this guy, and you are still putting that level of detail in, absolutely, that's your competition, and know it, right? So how do you stand out? Be like him and better. You gotta do it extra.
And I think I've seen this across the board. Hosting casting calls is depressing for actors. It's super depressing for directors. And the truth is, if it's a no by the time you sit in the chair. I'm sorry. We just let you read the lines because you've been waiting a long time.
That's why I hate audition waiting rooms.
Yeah, that's awful. But if it's a maybe, you can usually tell because the director will ask you to try it another way. And here's my hot tip for cast. I have a whole list, but here's the top tips, right? The number one thing I'm looking for as a director when someone walks into the room for a casting call is that you are present now. I need to feel like you are in your body, in the room with me now. And almost everybody that walks in the room, it's clear They're thinking about where they came from, where they're going, what they're going to have for dinner. Do they remember the conversation they had this morning? I need you to be present. That will automatically put you in the top 10%. And then if the director or the casting director or the assistant, whoever it is, if somebody gives you direction, listen to the direction. There's so many occasions where someone gives direction and then you get the same performance. And what that tells me as a director is that you might be a great actor, but I can't direct you.
But how do you navigate that now no one's in the room?
Well, how do you mean?
Well, we don't get notes anymore. So how do you navigate that?
Well, I think
Like
that...
that would get.
But I'm talking about like later in the stages, right? You're going to be picked out from.
Well, no, often I've been cast off tape with never meeting anyone.
I have.
Many times. He's been
My
in
two biggest jobs.
massive
Oh,
movies
that
cast
breaks
off
my
tape.
heart.
$100 million
Yeah.
They're making me
movie.
sad.
But that's the new reality. So I'm just
Yeah.
being real with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had the same, Chandler, right? Where you do the tape and you go and that's it. You got the job, right? So I think to piggyback on what you're saying, what you just said is important. But we now as actors have to do that without that.
So you
feedback.
have to direct yourself.
You have to direct yourself.
Yeah.
And then I think what's important with that in mind, and I say this to actors all the time, is just do your best work, right? Stop worrying about what they want, worry about what you're giving, right? And do your best work because you don't know what they want, right? And they don't know what they want.
They don't know what they want.
And we speak
So-
to more casting directors, I think,
They don't.
than almost any other actor in the industry, right? I'm in a privileged position where I can get to chat to casting every day, and they don't know what they want. I can categorically say it.
That's-
they want you to
that's
come in and be like, "That was awesome," and they go,
Yeah.
"Awesome! I found an awesome person."
They recognise what's good. They don't.
They
don't
exactly.
know it in advance.
They're a curator.
I want to ask
Yeah.
you though, because it sounds like what across the board here, what we're saying is that it's critical that you do the work. And I was going to say that really shows when you see someone like you were saying about filming it. You've had some success a little bit. So, what is a working week for you like when you're? Sorry, British humour.
Yes.
British humour. I apologise. I
No,
mean,
no,
by that I mean a lot of work. So-
I know that's yeah.
So what I want to hear is, just for everybody here, when you're not on set, when you're not filming, what's a working week like for you?
I think the most important thing that you can be doing to continuously improve your craft is obviously just acting classes, just like getting just some repetition, reps in of, getting on a script, getting notes, getting feedback, not just on just doing the scene better, but just improving yourself as an actor. Finding like a system that works for you is so critically important. Go to every acting class in your city, like try out everything and find the one that works. Step 2, do anything other than acting. Like get like other life experiences. Like I almost run like an indie game studio. It's a whole like nonprofit thing we develop in VR. I'm literally hands-on doing game development in Unity, like making this whole cyberpunk world. And then I have my production company as well, where I'm doing all post-production and doing all of the sound mixing and producing music for it. So doing all sorts of other stuff that is not acting, because like when you're acting, you need to pull on those like life experiences. I mean, you see those amazing actors up there, and a lot of times like when they get in their 50s and 60s, you can just feel the weight of their entire like life experience being poured into their performances, and you can't just like get to that point with only doing acting your whole life and not having any other life experiences that you're doing. So like here at Cannes, go and do something fun. I made the mistake of like booking something every single minute here, and I'm so sad because I didn't.
These people.
Yes, I know exactly. Yeah, I didn't go to that fun island over there, like and get on a boat and something. So that's like the best thing that you can be doing.
I want to ask you as well. So I'm guessing you have an agent and a manager. Can you describe the impact that each of those had on your career?
So I was hired locally out of Atlanta, so they were looking for a local Atlanta kid for this role, and so honestly, it was just having a local talent agent that helped me book for The Walking Dead and the other small films and commercials that I'd done before then, and since then I was with another big talent agency that they went through some transfers of ownership, and I got cut from the agency, so I am now with a like smaller boutique agency where they're not nearly as big of a name, but if the name of your agency is what books you something, then like there's something totally wrong with like what's going on. Like it's
So what was the before and after though? So before you had an agency at all, right? You just decided I'm going to be an actor. This is my career, an actor's life for me. I think there's a song, right?
yeah, right.
So you want to be an actor. You're working on things. How did things change when you had representation?
Well, I was 6 years old, so I'm trying to think back on that.
Chocolate or an ice cream?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the biggest shift was
So you started with representation, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I'd done some theater stuff without representation, and people had just been telling my parents like, hey, you need to get him an agent, and so they just went online and looked up like talent, like agency for kid actors Atlanta, and we just went to a bunch of workshops in a bunch of different places to that they would hold just like open things where you can just come in and audition basically for the agency, and then they would either sign you or they don't sign you. So and then after that it was some commercials and some film stuff from there, but honestly I was so young that it's hard to actually get like a better experience.
How
to
does
tell them.
I mustn't forget to, well, I'm going to ask you it now because it's otherwise I'm going to forget. This is an unfair question, so you can just say none of your business. Why are you an actor?
I mean, I think a lot of us can probably relate with this, but I'm in an incredibly fortunate position where I can go to conventions like around the world and meet people that are fans of The Walking Dead and like sign autographs and everything. And the one thing that like just it honestly, when I started hearing it more and more, the more I was like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. And it was when people they come up and they say, hey, I like watching your show and like watching your character like, you know, continue to persist through the like terrible conditions that he was going through. Help me get through like depression, or help me like I was sitting in the like, you know, in the hospital getting, you know, chemotherapy, watching The Walking Dead, and that's just like what kept me going like every time. And like, that's why I do it, to help people give people like some sort of escape from like whatever they're going through for like 10 minutes at least, you know. If we can do that and give people an experience and give people like a way to escape from their reality, whatever it is, then I've done my job and I've done it well, and that's what makes it like so rewarding. It's so great.
Fantastic. I think it's one of those old truisms that, you know, being in a life of service in some purposive way, that there's this idea that the fulfillment of human potential is in the service of others. So if you can find a way to be helpful and do that, it makes it worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, you guys. So when it thank you. So when WeAudition is providing actors a platform to be found for gigs, right? But what about representation?
Not really, but yeah.
How does it work for helping actors with things like getting representation or getting a presence, or is it more that they're getting to rehearse things and try, you know, walk me through it?
I mean, the simple answer is by being a better actor, you're putting yourself in a better position for those things anyway, right? There was
so be good at acting.
Be good at acting, number one, right? Always be good at acting, number one. But and I also say be good enough, right? I know actors that are forever in class waiting to get a little bit better, and so they can be the best they can be to book a job, while someone that's 50% good, which is more than good enough, is booking the jobs and getting better on set. But there was a previous iteration of WeAudition where you could meet agents and managers and casting online. We facilitated that through the video chat platform. That's in the past now. We retired some features because they were right at the time. They were right during COVID. We did online general meetings when everyone was not meeting in person, but there's times for a certain feature and times not.
I still get told about those.
Yeah.
Last night, so we had a party last night, and I had probably half a dozen people. Yeah, a few people came, and I had at least half a dozen people come up to me and say, "Oh, I started being part of your platform during COVID. It really got me through. I met this casting director, and I did a show with this person." And we get emails about that every week. But I spoke to, at least 6 or 7 people that said that, and that happens every single event.
And that's what I was going to lead in.
Darren, I have to point this out. During the fires, you helped out the acting community. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I'll touch. Thank you. Yeah, I'll touch on that. It's actually relevant to the other point I was going to say is how do people meet through the platform now? Well, we put events on around the world, and because of our I guess status in the industry, our credibility, when we invite casting directors and agents to an event, they come. We had the Finn Cannons, or we had Kimberly Wisted at our party in Atlanta on Saturday. We had agents from Purvis and from Alexander White and whatever, and they all come in a room with the actors because they know the actors that we invite on our platform are working, they're credible, they're good actors, they're not trying to hustle their way to fame, they're doing the work. And so when you do something from a credible standpoint, the credibility propagates throughout the whole industry, and suddenly the casting directors want to be in the room because they want to meet the actors because they know we're bringing in high quality talent. So I think if you apply that to anything you do it at your best level and the best people come, and then you all rise together, right? And so in person they'll connect with casting, and then they'll get recognition and stuff like that. Now, Dave's point about the fires, obviously I live in Los Angeles, and when the fires happened, it affected us all very closely that lived in Los Angeles, even if your house was not affected. I fortunately moved from a building that was evacuated 3 weeks before, just serendipitously. But then I rehoused some people that were in that building or in that area. So you couldn't not be affected. But straight away, we were trying to galvanize our community and be like, how can we help the actors? So we did various incentives from anyone that was affected by the fire. We straight away put their membership on pause. They didn't have to pay. We encouraged our members, if you can afford it, donate your reader fees to. So there was actors reading with other actors from around the world, from Africa and from Australia, saying, I'm not there, but if you want to read with me on WeAudition, and I normally charge $50 an hour, I'm donating that straight to the affected. And the reason they did that was because our members around the world have an affiliation with not only Los Angeles, but the people within it, because they're friends through the platform. These were their friends that were affected, yeah. And then so one more thing, we also then did a donation drive where we said, please tell your actor friends about WeAudition, and we will donate their fees if they sign up. We will donate their fees to the fires.
I want to give some kudos as well to Darren for some of this, because at the time, LA was very affected and Darren was there in the community. Now, I was in the UK at the time and I was much less affected. I wasn't seeing about it, I wasn't there. So what we're able to do as part of the community and being part of WeAudition is you're connected to people who are there. You're making friends in those places. And all credit to you doing that because you were feeling it on the ground. And being part of WeAudition and communities like us enables you to connect to your community, not in a physical presence, but with the people. And I think as we go forward, the communities are not going to be geographical, they're going to be digital, so you can find your people. And I believe that our community at WeAudition, people are finding people that they can grow with and get better, and that's why we support each other.
And get inspired by as well.
And get inspired, yeah, and grow and get better.
So once again, as in so many industries, it's about relationships. And as they say, it's not who you know, it's who knows you and how they know you, how they think of you. And ultimately, many of you know, we host the pajama party right here. And one of the main purposes of the pajama party is for people to make genuine human connections. Now, I'd like to transition. So fade to black. Fade up, scene 2, Villa Aloha Garden, later. I'd like to transition to talking
Has
about.
got some dramatic music.
Yeah, dun dun dun. Authentic performances. So some of the stuff that you've played requires pretty intense emotional performances, and I saw some lovely videos Michael Caine recorded many years ago, where he was saying, if you're playing drunk, never play drunk. Always play someone trying not to be drunk.
Yeah.
If you're playing someone who's crying, don't cry. Try not to cry. So there's some craft skills in there. But my interest as a director is always in giving actors an internal experience that's truly authentic. And one of the ways I like to do that, I like to do this together with the actors and also one-to-one privately, is I give them a background to the dialogue. So if there's a line that I don't think is really hitting, like the actor's not really getting the emotion, and something to mention here, just for context, is you know, the camera is so much more intimate than a kiss. Because when you kiss somebody, they're out of focus, you can only see half their face anyway, and you're preoccupied. But when you get a close-up, someone's face could be 20 foot high, and normally when we're in conversation, it's polite to look away. I hear in Germany it's normal to just stare at people. But in most of the world, it's polite to look away, you're looking around the room, you glance back. But when you're watching somebody's face on screen, all of those micro expressions, if anyone's familiar with neurolinguistic programming, the eye movements, the lip size changes, all of that stuff, all of those things, you're staring at the face. And they say a film is 90 minutes of looking at people's eyes. So it's necessary. The camera will reveal whatever it is that you are actually thinking. And if what you're thinking is, I hope I can remember my next line, that's exactly what the audience will get. I have a rule when I'm rehearsing actors, you've got to be off book or come back another day. You can't do it with a screenplay in your hand. So if there's a line of dialogue I don't feel is hitting, one of the things I'll do is give the actor a piece of background to it. So let's say, for example, the scene is one where someone offers an actor, they offer the character an orange, and I want them to, they don't like oranges, and it says in the screenplay, you know, the actor recoils slightly, and they're just overdoing it. So maybe I'll give them a background story and say, hey, look, you know, when you were a kid, your parents had this weird cult thing going on. They forced you to eat 3 oranges a day right throughout your childhood. And as soon as you were 18, you swore you would never eat another orange. And of course, the person that you're meeting with doesn't know that. But just run the scene, let's see how it plays. And of course, now I've given them that background, that hook. When the person offers them the orange, you'll get this little, very slight, very subtle reaction. So I wanted to ask all of you about these sorts of tips. How do you approach, particularly I want to hear from you particularly about the really intense dramatic scenes, which just won't play. You could do it in theatre, but it just won't play if you're acting. How do you approach that?
So the way I used to do things versus the way things do now, it's very different. The way I used to do things is probably very unhealthy. I because I didn't have any really formal training as an actor when I was younger. I pretty much just told myself, okay, I'm in the apocalypse. My name is Carl. This is all real, you know, and just putting myself in that headspace, which is really not great, you know, when you're having to kill your mom because she has to go through a C-section, is going to turn into a zombie because she's going to die, so you have to just kill her. It's incredibly depressing, yeah. So yeah, not a great headspace to put yourself in when you're 13. So that's what I used to do to try to give just real, especially for the deeply emotional stuff. I would just really go there, and man, it's hard to take yourself out because the body doesn't know that it's fake. Yeah. But
that's a really, really good point, right? Yeah. So that the bit of you that has experiences doesn't differentiate well between something you are experiencing or something you're imagining. So as an actor, there's a kind of a danger there if you're working on characters that are dealing with this. How long does it take you, if you're working on a scene like that, how long does it take you to come out of it? I mean,
a lot of times I would just in between takes or setups, I would just walk off and just wander kind of through the set and just stay there, you know, when it was the deeply emotional stuff, because I just didn't want to take myself out of it, because then I would be so far out of it that it'd be so hard to, it would be such a journey to get back in there that I'm just gonna fucking stay, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna stay down in the mud, you know, and
flipping.
Yes, stay in the flipping mud.
But I'd like to back up a step, if I may. You said just now you go there. What is that?
Man, just kind of what I was saying earlier of just talking myself into getting to that emotional state and convincing myself that it's real, which I don't do anymore, which is great.
So what does that look like? You would dwell on it, you would think it through, you would just imagine the scenario a lot. Would you add details in your imagination to the narrative?
Yeah.
So you really live it in your imagination in the lead up to a take.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds really unhealthy.
It was incredibly unhealthy. Yes. Yeah. But now, you know, and it's interesting. It was a lot easier for me to just kind of jump in and do that when I was younger. But I found using that when I was an adult it just didn't work as well. So I had to kind of figure out something else. So now I had found an acting studio that I've been at for 7 years. I now teach at the acting studio. Just the system that we do, and it's all about, you know, you build the being first, and then the script is like, you build the being and make it a part of your instrument, is what we call it, and just have it as be another behavior set of yourself. And so then everything that your character says is just a natural output of this being that already exists in this environment. So you do a lot of work, like, as soon as you kind of get the script, you get an idea of, sometimes you don't even read the script, you just like the breakdown and just like get an idea of the character, you build it. And then you go to the script, then you get to the dialogue, and a lot of times you don't even have to do that much like writing in between of like thoughts and ideas, because you already know how this character thinks, how they walk, how they talk, how they hold themselves, because at the end of the day, acting is like one of the hardest things, because you have to create a whole living, breathing being out of just the words on a paper, which like, there's something about communication, I think, that's like, the words of what you actually say is like, what, like 10% of how we communicate as humans? Yeah, so you have to fill up another 90% somewhere and give this whole being a whole life of its own. And I found that building it beforehand and then just taking that being onto set, and it's honestly, it's just been the way to go for me. Like, it's... Yeah, go ahead. I could go forever talking about this.
This is wonderful. So this is wonderful that what you're describing is that you get a true sense of the character, which is what the director has to do, prepare for everything in a project, and then you just bring it and apply it. And you reminded me of one of the things I recommend to actor friends is that a lot of people think you should get the costume right. There was a famous actor that would always try to get a prosthetic nose for the character. And you get this concept of anchoring, Pavlovian anchoring, like an object in your pocket or a costume or a way of walking. My hot tip is to get the way the character breathes first. Get the way the character breathes, and it'll impact your body language, your speech, your syncopation, the emphasis, all of that will come from the breath. And you reminded me of Simon Phillips, I mentioned earlier, this fantastic trainer for directors, who said that in each moment in a narrative, characters experience something, they see something, they hear something, they think something, and they make a decision about it. He called them change points. So if you can identify the change points in a screenplay, those are the emotional transitions for the character.
We call them arrival points. It's the same
concept.
Yep.
How about you? What have you got any hot tips?
I was going to say, can you repeat the question? Because I was so like enamored.
So the question is, and we're a bit short on time. I want to take a couple of questions as well.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you have any hot tips, really helpful, just techniques you can apply to bring authenticity to a performance, to make it real?
Yeah. I'll jump to you afterwards as well. My hot tip. Listening to you guys, you Carl. Sorry. See, that's how in it I am, Chandler. Listening to you, you had incredible mentors. So without even probably realizing at the time, but one of my hot tips is use other people around you that are better than you. As actors, we often will do stuff with our friend, with our roommate, with our partner, with our girlfriend, with whatever, right? When what you should be doing is look, and even coaches. I'm not a massive advocate of coaches, because most coaches I meet are less experienced than my friends on television, right? And so my hot tip was, if you can't work with Andrew Lincoln because he's not there, find your version of that, right? And learn from someone doing, don't learn from someone telling, right? That's my hot tip.
I'd absolutely agree with that. And I do similar things as well. I think I've got a kind of weird superpower, which is really bad in my personal life, but I can't lie. So I know that if I think something, that shows on my face, and I'm well aware of it. So if I don't like something, it's very, very difficult. But I've used that in the drama. What I try and do is know the script so well, that's not always the case, but I know it so well that I can do that thing where you talk to yourself. So what I try and do is, if I'm on against someone, say I'm chatting to Darren, and I'll think of all the things that character should be saying, and I'll talk to myself about that in between the lines. And I know that it shows on my face. Now, I won't try and move. I will try not to move. But I know that that's showing in my eyes and whatever as I'm listening. And I might be saying, you've got a really nice car. I really like driving that car, and I crashed it yesterday or whatever. It might be completely different. But I'm talking to myself, and then that line comes out. And if I know the script well enough, the right line comes out. Now, if I don't know the lines very well, and this has happened a lot, especially when I was doing soap opera,
Naughty.
is I'm thinking, what's the next line? Oh, and then that shows on your face, and that's why you look crap.
So there's an
Wait,
improv.
on that note though, if there's any writers in the room, write good scripts because it just comes out. Sometimes we learn, like we get a 2-page script and I just can't get it in, and then I get a 13-page script written by Aaron Sorkin or by I remember I had an audition for Pachinko, which was an incredible series. Jimmy Simpson got the role I went for. 13 pages just went bloop because it all made sense and it was like osmosis.
So there's just from a director's point of view as well. There's an important point there about the reactions. Very often, the reaction shot tells the audience how they should feel when they hear a line of dialogue from characters. So character A says something, the other actor reacts, and the audience then knows, oh, okay, I should be upset. We're out of time, but I want to do like 1 or 2 really quick questions. You had something to add as well.
Yeah, it's like just a super short, just actionable kind of like tip that I've taken everywhere. You mentioned Andrew Lincoln. There's one thing that he always did on set that like I never knew what it was until I asked him eventually. And he looked at he was always like looking at his hand in between setups and everything else. And I asked him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, it was something I learned at my acting school." And just like looking at your hand helps just really helps like cancel out all the noise. So there's a lot of stuff going on around you in production, but just taking it here and then running through the stuff like through your head for your character and everything else, just like it's just a great way to just like really quickly and really easily get into it. So that's just one like quick actionable thing.
But this is
that's,
actually
like,
this is
yeah.
something that a good director will do for you. In my experience,
yeah,
like part of
yeah.
my responsibility as a director is to hold the space so that the actors can forget everything and just be present. Now, we are out of time, but before we stop, I want to take 2 really quick questions and answers. You have a question.
Thank you so much for the panel. What's your take on rehearsals?
So what's your take on rehearsals?
The most important thing. I mean, the more time that you can spend with your actors, or I mean, it's gonna help you so much, save you so much time on set. I mean, you can, if you spend like a couple of hours rehearsing a scene, you're only gonna do 1 or 2 takes on set because you already got what you want.
I know
Bless
sometimes
you.
actors like it, sometimes hate it, and meaning rehearse before the shoot. Like
Yes.
Pre-production
Yeah.
kind of bring them around. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add to that? Agree, and also as an actor, I hate too much rehearsal.
I don't.
I hate to. I don't hate too much blocking, but I hate too much rehearsal because the more, then it starts becoming monotonous for me personally, and then I like to just about know what's up so I can live in the moment and really do it, because that's when I feel like I get my most authentic out.
So more table reads, kind of like than rehearsal.
No, I want to know what I'm doing. I want to know where the cameras are. But if I over rehearse my lines, it becomes stiff.
So
It
you've got the
becomes-
craft and you've got the authenticity.
Yeah, and then the more you do it, the harder it is to deviate because you've done it so many times in one way, especially in rehearsals, because you're not really putting the full performance into it. That suddenly that becomes rote, and it becomes habitual. And I've had a director once rehearse me for a week for a film, and I just shake it off because it was so rigid, everything, and it lost all the emotion.
Okay, one-liner joke style question and answer. Anybody else?
You talked about staying in it, and now you've built a character where you're not doing that. So how do you get back in and out of the character between takes?
Okay, one-line answers from everybody.
You kind of find what works for you, right? So I roll myself through an undercurrent, what the character's been like, the silent engine of the being, the overcurrent, what's happening, what they're resolved to do, what they're there to do and get done.
My answer is do your homework, know your character, done.
My answer is I go to the craft service table and drink coffee.
All right, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. Thank you so much, everybody.